Okay, I'm seeing our numbers are slowed down a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and kick us off with this first Family Friday offered by William & Mary's Office of Parent and Family Programs. I'm Lauren Garrett. I'm with Student Transition Engagement Programs, and I'm happy to be here to talk with you all about the Tribe Guide, which is your one-stop resource for this transition into William & Mary for both you and your student. We have a few functional pieces that I want to make sure that everyone on the webinar is familiar with. First, there should be a Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen that I would encourage you to utilize if you have any questions specifically about the Tribe Guide. We're not necessarily going to go deep into the weeds on any of the specific topics, but more helping you figure out how to find answers to your questions that you might have, or figure out who to direct those questions to as you move through this transition. And secondly, want to make sure that folks know that if at any point in time you have questions or you need to step away and take care of other things, that you know that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the Parent and Family Programs website for future reference and iteration. So don't hesitate to do other things. We know that this noontime can be a busy time frame for folks, so want to make sure that you're able to multitask as best as you can. Now, getting started here, we are going to kick things off by talking a little bit about the Tribe Guide and what exactly it is for your transition into William and Mary. I will put in the caveat that I am coming to you from the historic Wren building. It is the last day of classes, and so you might hear some frivolity behind me as students are ringing the bell to mark the end of their coursework. So it's a great day of celebration across campus, and one that you and your students will hopefully be celebrating in just a few short years. So full circle transition experience here. So if you're not familiar with the Tribe Guide, want to make sure that you have that website memorized. It's www.wm.edu/Tribe Guide, all one word. That will take you to a series of web pages that help introduce you and your student to the William & Mary community and make sure that you get done everything that's needed before your campus arrival in August. So the Tribe Guide is split into multiple sections. So want to make sure that you are aware of each of those pieces. Whoop. So we have the checklist, which is that to-do task list that we want to make sure everyone's familiar with. There's a portion of pages that deal specifically with advising and registration, health and wellness, housing and dining, orientation, and then the ever important contact us section. So you know how to get in touch with us in STEP should you have any additional questions or concerns. We're going to start first with the checklist to give everyone a sense of what to expect over the course of these next few months. The Tribe Guide checklist is actually broken into different student populations. So if you are the parent or family or supporters of incoming first-time in college freshmen, you're going to choose the class of 2027 drop-down checklist. If you're the parent family supporter of a incoming transfer student, you're going to use the transfer student drop-down menu and follow that checklist, and so on and so forth, depending on your student's affiliation. At the bottom of the checklist page, you're also going to see a parent and family checklist. Your checklist looks a little bit different from our students, but yet is similar because it includes a lot of the similar or same information that your students are receiving, but perhaps in a different time frame. Because for you, we want to make sure that you're prepped to be a resource and a supporter, and not necessarily the keeper of the information or the doer of the information. So in a lot of cases, your family checklist will talk about reviewing, becoming familiar with, or simply identifying or supporting your student in the completion of their to-do tasks in those drop downs found above or earlier on that page itself. So to give you a sense of how the checklist works, we've divided up tasks based off of beginning and end dates. So you'll notice for some of our programs or resources, they'll be mentioned multiple times on the checklist because there are different points in time where you might want to be familiar with or aware of things opening, closing, becoming available for review, or tasks that need to be accomplished. Right now, we're in May, you're going to be wanting to become familiar with our pre-orientation programs, the housing application process, the new student inventory, and student accessibility services registrations, the process and the timelines. Now, nothing is due until the end of this month. None of the items that are found in the checklist are driven by first come, first serve, except for our pre-orientation programs. Whenever there's a deadline, say for housing, or there's the deadline for inventory, having your students submit something or complete something on the first day that task opens does not necessarily increase chances or likelihood or better matches or better room assignments, so on and so forth. We build things in with a little bit of cushion because we know that right now students are focused on getting out of their current academic setups. So finishing up classes, finishing up coursework, of course, for some of our students, graduation. And then, of course, we have the all-important family transitions that still need to happen, vacations, jobs, etc. So we want you to know that we've built in some time and some cushion, so nothing will ever be open and due on the same day. And students and families shouldn't feel the pressure to have that happen. So in May, there's a lot of familiarity there that we want you to be getting with some of our on-campus resources, because in June we start talking about virtual meetups with student populations. Health histories and immunizations are due to our health professionals here on campus, and then at the end of the month students will actually select their on-campus housing assignments if that is their situation. In July, we're going to be doing some individual resource building. You'll notice that the bulk of our academic preparation happens over the course of July. That includes conversations with peer advisors, as well as the first round of early course registration that's done in conjunction with our Office of Undergraduate Academic Affairs. We'll start talking a little bit about what it means to become a member of a diverse community and to be entering a space where individuals may be coming to the table from different perspectives and backgrounds. And so we'll talk a little bit about civil discourse and how do we learn to listen instead of learn to persuade. We'll talk about how students want to get involved or become engaged across the university campus or spectrum, as we encourage students to build out their club and organization activity profiles and also start to sign up for career development profiles, perhaps indicating an industry or a passion or a major that they're interested in. And then at the end of the month, we'll make sure that all of our students have health insurance documentation in place, either by enrolling in the university's plan or waiving the university's plan and providing information about perhaps a family or supporter related opportunity that might already be in place. And then in August, feels very business heavy in a sense, doesn't it? At the start of the month, tuition and fees will be due. We'll have students participating in Safe Colleges modules, which talk about choices and decision-making. During the course of this month, students will also begin to do virtual or Zoom-based community gatherings with their orientation aides and other folks living in their residence hall communities. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we'll start to bring you on campus through residence hall move-in, and then welcome you to campus through family and new student orientation programs. So the checklist literally covers everything from start to finish. As soon as your students deposited, up until the day they arrive on campus and beyond. We want you to know that if you print out that checklist and you follow it, that you will be in a good place. You and your student will be in a good place for your campus arrival in August. Now, as we start looking at the tribe guide, as I mentioned, beyond the checklist, there's some drill down pieces within the website that I want you to become familiar with. These are typically the areas where we get a lot of questions over the course of the summer about when, how, where, why, who, and a lot of these different sections include that information. And so we typically encourage students to first review these sections. If they don't see the answer to their question, then to reach out to the appropriate office that's noted. So when we talk about planning and preparing, that is a list of everyone and everything that will be introduced to your student in terms of academic preparation for the semester. The Office of Undergraduate Academic Advising has included a timeline, a list, a full bevy of what students and families can expect to be shared with them over the course of the summer when it comes to academic planning and course registration, in terms of who will be working with students, namely peer advisors, and when deadlines and information will be distributed to students via their William & Mary email address. There's a whole page and timeline about registration itself that includes both the summer timeframes as well as the start of the semester timeframes. Registration is completed during the orientation program after every student has met with their pre-major faculty advisor. William & Mary holds very near and dear to its core philosophy of the liberal arts and sciences that faculty should be working with students from day one. And so all of our students are advised by faculty members in this pre-major stage so that students feel comfortable building a relationship with faculty members, feel comfortable talking with them, discussing concerns or fears about academic coursework or even major declaration. But we want students to have a connection within the faculty. And so it's important that our students don't complete registration until after they've spoken with a member of the William & Mary faculty in order to do that. The third page students will want to explore is the summer support page, and that includes the listing of who's who within academic advising and undergraduate academic affairs. It goes back to that planning and preparation page a little bit, where it starts talking about the people who will be reaching out, as well as what students can expect in terms of the transition from new student to upper level student as well. And then the last piece under this section is about textbook ordering. We've already gotten some questions from families about how does that happen? Do students order online? Our bookstore actually has a terrific rental program, as well as obviously sales. And so students, once they've completed their course registration for the fall semester during orientation, there will be a link provided to them through that process, and they will be able to download a list of the books that are both required and or optional for them that will be needed for the upcoming semester. And so textbook ordering for a lot of our incoming students doesn't happen until that first week that they're on campus, after they've completed registration. And then they work specifically with their orientation aides to make sure that they visit the bookstore or they sign up for those books and purchase them online with an easy campus pickup associated with that process. The next section I want to draw attention to is the health and wellness section. Health and wellness on our campus is comprised of 4 unique departments that address the full aspect of what it means to be a well individual on campus. There's a William & Mary Wellness app that we encourage students to download, as well as families, that shows you when classes are happening across campus. It talks about workshops. And these are great sort of insights for you as families and supporters to have for your students, because when they call up and they say, maybe I'm feeling stressed or I'm missing maybe your family pet, you can say, well, I think they might actually be having a therapy dog come to the wellness center tomorrow. Have you thought about taking a visit over there? Or, oh, have you thought about maybe doing yoga or taking a fitness class? So again, serving in that resource component or department as you begin this transition of a relationship with having a college age student. And then lastly, want you to be aware as families and supporters that not only is health and wellness presented and encouraged in person through active workshops, engagements, and opportunities, but there's also a whole host of virtual resources that students can begin exploring now. So a number of different virtual web apps, counseling resources, etc., YouTube videos, and things of that nature. And then the next section that the Tribe Guide really talks about is housing and dining. So all of these pages are built into the Tribe Guide checklist because they all have tasks associated with them. But want you to know that there's more information about these topics than simply what's in that to-do list. So within the housing section, they talk about the 2-year residency requirement for students who are coming straight out of high school. They talk a little bit about the opportunities for both first-time and college housing students, as well as transfer students and others who might be joining us through exchange programs. And they also talk a little bit about the residential philosophy when it comes to roommate agreements and self-determination, which is essentially encouraging students to advocate for themselves, their needs, and begin to make decisions as part of a member of a community. The William & Mary Tribe Card is our student ID program here on campus. And the Tribe Card has a deadline associated with it because we need your student's picture in order to be on that card so that we can identify them as they move throughout their university experience. That Tribe Card is actually given to them during orientation, move-in check-in on that Thursday, August 24th. But we do need them to upload a picture so that they are ready to go. That Tribe Card is used to get access to their residence hall, to access the meal plan through the dining halls, as well as to gain access to a variety of different campus events and athletics events across the university. And then lastly, meal plans. So meal plan information as it becomes available, once we have updated information from our dining services provider this summer, will be live and placed here on this website in this place. And then of course will be sent out to incoming students and families as we're excited to announce that partnership very shortly. And then the last big section of the Tribe Guide that we want families and supporters to be aware of is the orientation section. So this is where you're going to find information about move-in routes, move-in processes. You're going to see each residence hall's individual student schedule for orientation, as well as where you're going to find your family orientation schedule. And then, of course, we're going to encourage you to download the mobile app if you have not yet already done so, and become familiar with the Welcome Days event programming that we have created specifically for students who may be in their second or third year on campus who are still looking for ways to get involved or to become involved. And Welcome Day programming is available not just to that population, but also to incoming students. So during orientation, it's not just policy and procedure, it's not just name games and icebreakers, but it's a chance for students to really start to explore the William & Mary community and figure out how they want to be involved and where they see themselves belonging across the university spectrum. And then the last piece of the Tribe Guide is the contact us. And so basically just want you to know that if you have any questions or concerns or specifics about what you're seeing in the Tribe Guide, that you know where to reach out, and that's to us at STEP. So obviously available online through our website. We have a phone number. You're welcome to call that, or of course, email us, and we're happy to answer questions. Now, what I'm going to do is actually open up if you give me some grace, I'm going to open up and stop sharing this PowerPoint, but begin to share out our actual Tribe Guide website. While I'm doing that, I'm also going to open up the Q&A and hopefully do a little bit of a responsive question and answer situation and hopefully help find folks some resources online as we do this. So one moment. As I share my screen. Oh. All right. So hopefully folks are seeing the Tribe Guide website right here. This is that landing page that we chatted a little bit about. And I'm going to open up the Q&A and see what questions have been brought up. And I know Sabrina is on the line and has been answering some questions on the back end. And so I will reiterate or follow up with that. So this is the first of the Family Friday series. You'll get an email to family email addresses that we have on file with the university. You'll get a message whenever there's an upcoming Family Friday, as well as you'll start to receive newsletters for as incoming new families and supporters of incoming students. So make sure that you are bookmarking and that you save the email address families@wm.edu. Let's see, what do we have? Okay, so clarification on some of the meetup information that I talked about on the checklist. So you might have noticed that on the checklist, as I was talking about it, we talked about meetups that were happening June, July, and August. And so in June, we focus on identity or distinctive population meetups, so virtual, of course, and we start trying to pull together students who may have common background or identity experiences. So for instance, first generation college students, we might encourage to gather over Zoom, connect them with student organizations or peer resources so they can begin to sort of shape that information and that experience for themselves. We also do that similarly with military kids, international students, and we'll even sometimes move into geographic regions depending on where the class is sort of shaping up. Now, over the course of July, end of June, moving into July, we'll actually start to host some in-person welcome events that our welcome events calendar is currently being populated out, but encourage folks to see if we're coming to your neck of the woods and encourage you to join us in person. And then those community meetups, and those community meetups are based off of residential communities. If your student will be commuting from your permanent home address and is not necessarily going to be living on campus, then a commuter student group, their orientation group will meet during that time frame rather than their residential community. Okay, terrific. So I'm getting some logistical questions about things. So I'm just going to sort of start popping in here. So in the checklist, you'll notice that you can print out the full roster of events. If you literally click on that header, we have a specific piece here where you can actually follow that link and it will turn that list and the associated space around it into a printable document so you can follow along. Anytime an update is made to the Tribe Guide, either to the checklist or to a page proper, I will make a note of that at the bottom of the page so that you can follow along. In some cases, it's minor changes, maybe a word change or a date change or shift. But in most cases, we will make sure that you're kept up to date and informed there. Pre-orientation programs are not required of folks to participate in. They are encouraged, and students can participate in more than one. We have had some folks who have already reached out and said, my student's applying for the Bridge program, but also wants to do 7 generations. As long as the dates don't overlap, you're more than welcome to participate in those as broadly as you wish. The pathways and the 7 generations programs, you will note, do directly sort of coincide or become adjacent to new student orientation. We will work with you and your students on that transition in terms of move-in, and they do have a very short window where they're able to move belongings into their rooms, hopefully, at the start of the session, but not necessarily set up their spaces. So peers and upper level mentors and orientation aides will help make sure that that transition happens a little bit later on during the orientation program itself. A lot of the specifics that we talk about within the Tribe Guide will go into more depth in 2 ways. First of all, students who are incoming students will start to receive what's called the Hot Topics newsletter. That will go directly to their university email. And there is we will do deep dives in each of those topics as we move through each summer. So for instance, if we talk about financial aid, we might redirect to some families or to some students if you're going to be paying with a 529, or if you're looking or have questions about local or outside scholarships, we'll include links there that students need to be mindful of. Anything we send to a student in these hot topic messages then typically gets shared or sort of repeated and shared out to parents and families through the parent and family newsletter. So if we've sent a message to students about financial aid or about the bill or about health histories, then typically in the next parent and family newsletter, you'll get similar information sent to you as well. We want students to take ownership of this process. And so therefore the information will first go to students and then will get followed up by to parents and families and supporters with whom we have information on file. Let's see. So the mobile app for orientation does not necessarily go live until the end of July. Right now, the mobile app has modules on it for commencement. And so once commencement comes down, Juneteenth goes up. Once Juneteenth goes down, then new student orientation pops up. So it's a rotating module that you'll see within the mobile app. I'm looking at things, social media. Some of our students and some of our families have created their own social media platforms. We encourage you, if you make the decision to join any of those groups, to keep in mind that often they're student run or family run. And so if you need, if you have specific questions, it's always best to refer back to that office or department here on campus, and we're happy to work through or answer any questions that you may have. There is an official student social media platform that the Office of Undergraduate Admission has created and has shared out with students that I would encourage students to join and consider utilizing as a resource, especially as they start to want to meet others, perhaps as they're trying to make connections for roommates and housing and things of that nature. Okay. A lot of the questions that I'm seeing in the Q&A are technically answered within the tribe guide. And so I'm going to do my best to, as we're talking, try to give some information there. So in terms of the spring pathway, so if your student has decided to come in the spring, maybe is waitlisted and is trying to, and is going to be doing a community college or the Virto pathway, they are not technically William & Mary students for the fall. And so their tribe guide and their enrollment process will go live in late November, early December. And so they'll be taken care of on sort of that next wave of incoming students. Okay. Unfortunately, we are not able, we've written some questions about, can you send us lists of students? Unfortunately, all that information is protected through FERPA. And so we are not able to send out lists of students coming from similar geographic areas or who are planning to participate in XYZ organizations. This is where the social media platforms can come in very handy for students, where we're finding that a lot of students will introduce themselves and then make connections in that way. If a student is coming in through a specific varsity sport or participation, I would recommend that they work with their coach to see if there are others maybe coming in that they can be connected with. But unfortunately, we're not able to share out information about other students with broader populations. I'm getting a lot of questions about pre-orientation programs. They seem to be very popular this year, which is terrific. Okay, so perhaps it's because I've landed us on that page. created my own destiny in a way here. So when it comes to pre-orientation programs, some are already open for registration and some are through application. So the 7 generations and the pathways programs are first come, first serve based off of registration. And they are pre-orientation programs that, that participants do have to pay for. The Neurodiversity Bridge Program and the Preparing for Life as a University Student, they have application/registration processes that need to be followed. The PLUS program does have a deadline of May 31st for participation. The Neurodiversity Bridge Program is open until filled. Both of those programs, the student does need to complete a little bit of paperwork in order to participate, and then they will be communicated with by those program administrators in a timely manner so that then students and families can make decisions about participation attendance and also make decisions around logistics and getting to Williamsburg. All of those programs are held or at least start in Williamsburg. And so William and Mary will be sort of your destination on that start date. And then from there, different programs sort of branch out and do different things. So with pathways, they go all over the state with their outdoor exploration, no prior experience necessary. And for 7 generations, they actually move into the greater Williamsburg area as they do service and learn about community engagement and resourcing and sustainability. So pre-orientation covered. I'm seeing some questions about academics. I'll try to get into a little bit. I'm not going to go too far. We're going to handle a little bit of academic piecing here. So let's take a little trek through the website. Back over to our tribe guide and our advising. Okay. So when it comes to advising, as you're going to see, there's some things that we need students to do to make sure that they're prepared academically. They need to send us their transcripts, complete their new student inventory, which will be a unique link will be emailed to them middle of this month. And then college studies will open. And most students have about a month and some change to complete college studies, which on average takes 6 to 8 hours to complete. College studies is the first time they're going to get a connection with a peer advisor. And you're going to see there that peer advisors are going to reach out to students as part of that process. Part 1 is directly related to academic advising and academic preparation. Part 2, you'll notice that the library staff is involved, and that's because we're talking about literacy, research literacy, and digital literacy as well. And so part 2 of college studies is about being able to academically be prepared to source and complete assignments as they're assigned during the course of the semester. And then you'll see that the Office of Undergraduate Academic Affairs will provide additional webinars, resources, and all that information will go directly to your student. And then we follow up with the registration periods, that pre-major faculty advisor appointment during orientation, and then wrapping up with registration. Pre-major faculty advisors will not reach out to your students until just before orientation. And it's in that email, they will introduce themselves and they will set up an appointment to meet during orientation. And so you'll see a lot of folks, the peer advisors will be the best resource over the course of the semester. All right, I'm seeing some questions about what actually happens during orientation. So during orientation, we tackle a number of different transition issues. We talk about academic preparation. We talk a little bit about resourcing, and it actually runs from that Friday, August 25th until Tuesday, just before classes. And so it's in our business, we call it a welcome week style of orientation. So students will move in by appointment on Thursday, August 24th to campus. Events will occur that evening. We'll do name games, get to know you. They'll meet their orientation aides who are their support system throughout the orientation program. And then when they wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed on Friday, we will kickstart new student orientation. New student orientation will cover, again, those topics I've mentioned previously. We'll hold our student organization and activities fair. We do a little bit of a pep rally to really bring on that William & Mary school spirit. And then that leads us straight into the first day of classes, which is Wednesday, August 30th. And the first day of classes culminates in opening convocation, which is when our students walk through officially the Wren building and are greeted by the rest of the university community in the courtyard proper. Convocation is live streamed, so families and supporters, you're welcome to view and participate with us from afar. We have a camera on each side of the Wren building, and so you can see the ceremony and the pomp and circumstance with full academic procession and regalia, and then you'll actually be able to watch the students come through the Wren building and enter the courtyard on the other side, really sort of culminating that first day. It's one of those goosebump traditions that we have here on campus. Move in is contactless. So as you drive onto campus, based off of your residence hall, you'll be given a color-coded route or map to follow. You will follow those instructions. Your student will get their ID, they will get their room key, they will get their orientation information, they will get checked into all of those things, and then they will move into their space on campus. Orientation and their OAs will pick up with them seamlessly at that point of move-in. And once new student orientation kicks off, family orientation begins. Now, family orientation is broken into two days. There will be a large-scale welcome the evening of Thursday, August 24th, and then the morning of Friday, August 25th. It's more of a conference-style family orientation experience where families can mix and match which sessions they might want to attend based off of their own interest or perhaps even their students' interest. Family orientation is not required, but is highly encouraged so that you can continue being that supporter, cheerleader, and resource for your students. This is a little bit different because new student orientation is most certainly required for students in order to be enrolled individuals at the university. New student and family orientation run parallel. At no point in time does their program intersect. And that's done intentionally so that new students can begin connecting, bonding, and building relationships with their communities, their residential communities, as well as those peer support networks. So once your student moves in, really that Thursday is your opportunity to have that dinner, to have those final moments, and to think about sort of what does this transition really look like for you and your family. If you're not able to join us Thursday evening or Friday morning for family orientation, most of the sessions will either be recorded or information will be shared through newsletters following up. And so not being able to join us in person does not mean that you are missing out. You'll just need to look for that information to come to you in a different format moving forward. But we want to make sure that everybody is prepared and feels comfortable and confident in continuing to be their students' sort of champion in this experience. See, last day of classes. Are you hearing some of this frivolity on the wall? It is a happy, happy day on campus. All right. One piece that I haven't shared that I think it's important for families and students to be aware, it's not part of the Tribe Guide checklist. So Sabrina, indulge me as I take us on a new sort of dive in our website, is that I do want to show you on the Student Transition Engagement Program's website, there is, if you scroll down, and I'm trying not to make folks feel a little bit queasy as we do this, there is a section called University Resources. And I know as I talk, I use a lot of William & Mary lingo. And so all of that lingo and the definitions that we use can actually be found on the STEP website under William & Mary jargon. And so we've broken it down into several different headers. As you can see here, academics, buildings, campus adjacent abbreviations, campus living abbreviations, clubs and orgs, student services, and traditions. So for example, I've been talking about OAs or orientation aides. And an orientation aide, as you can see here, is a volunteer student leader who works directly with the staff office, specifically with the new student orientation program, and so on and so forth. RAs, part-time student staff members who work with Residence Life. But the William & Mary jargon page is a great page to bookmark, whether you're a first-year family or you're a senior year family, because as I'm sure you know, the lingo is constantly changing. How we talk about things constantly changes. And this is where we try to keep things up to date so that sometimes even our faculty and staff are aware of what students are talking about when that brand new abbreviation pops up. Every time a new building goes up or every time a new space moves, there's always a new abbreviation for us all to learn across the university spectrum. Okay, I'm seeing lots of good questions. I know Sabrina's been answering some things on the back end. And so if we weren't able to get to your questions, or if you have individual needs that you'd like to sort of talk through, feel free to send me an email, either to my direct email, and that's lg@wm.edu, or you're welcome to contact us through the step@wm.edu email address. I'm the one who answers that, and so happy to connect with you in that way. But that was a little bit of our rundown on the Tribe Guide and what we feel like families and supporters need to know as you move through this experience. If there are questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out to us, but we will be in touch with you and your students over the course of the summer. We will become a very familiar acronym to you as well. And so make sure that you are favoriting or saving those families at wm.edu and the step@wm.edu addresses. Again, if all else fails, sort of loop back to the Tribe Guide, loop back to the William & Mary STEP website, but ultimately we are here to support your transition. And a condensed version of this with a little bit more of an in-depth meandering through some of the pages will also be posted to our website following this webinar too, so you can review that on your own. But with that, thanks so much for joining us for this first Family Friday of many to come, and look forward to having you join us on campus very, very soon. Move in by appointment on Thursday, August 24th, and hopefully we'll meet you over the course of the summer through one of the various meetups that are slated to happen June, July, or August. So take care, everyone, and have a wonderful Friday. Happy last day of classes.